DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Head trauma, concussions, CTE. I mean, this is a major discussion point now in sport, especially for all contact sports. In the studio with me, a woman who knows all about this, has 9 clinics called the Headache Clinic and has treated very well-known names in New Zealand rugby circles, including Beauden, Barrett, Sam Cane, Will Jordan. Helen Tufui, welcome.
Thank you.
So let's just talk about treating those guys to start with. When they get concussed in rugby, is it that easy to figure out you have been concussed for a start? Do you have to get knocked out to know that there's something has gone wrong?
No, absolutely. Absolutely not. With concussion, only 10% of people will be knocked out or lose consciousness with a concussion injury. So it's actually quite rare. 90% aren't going to lose consciousness at all.
And so with all of these guys, when they came to see you, how far down the track was it? Was it like, they were really worried about it, or was it just a precautionary measure? What?
Oh, a mixture, actually. So some had ongoing symptoms and were well down the track, and others are more acute.
Are you able to treat all concussions, not just those guys, but all concussions? There is a cure?
Yeah.
If there is such a thing?
You want to get to, if they have ongoing symptoms or symptoms at all, you want to get to the bottom of why they have that and assess the different systems that can potentially play a role. So you assess the different systems and then treat the problem within that system.
Are the rugby injuries all the same, like for those guys? They were completely different, were they?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, no, they're all different.
Okay.
Every concussion is different, and you need to be able to assess the different systems. So it might be neck, or it might be the vestibular system, or it might be blood flow. So that's where people feel fine unless they exercise, and when they're exercising and their heart rate goes up, then they've got a problem.
For those guys, though, they play, as I say, full contact sport. And this is not just a playing; this is training as well.
Yes.
So wouldn't your first piece of advice be stop doing this?
Absolutely not. So that's one of the worst things that people can do is not exercise. So if we know that there's reduced blood flow to the brain after a concussion injury, so the best way to increase blood flow to the brain is to exercise, but you have to do that in a very controlled way. So if you say you've got 4 out of 10 headache before training, and you start running and your symptoms go up to 5 or 6 out of 10, that's okay. But if they go higher, so higher than a 2-point increase, then you're just annoying it. So you're not actually helping to restore that blood flow.
How do you know, though? Like when you say it goes up to 9, is that just a pain threshold thing?
Yeah.
Or is that just you feeling more fuzzy, or is it a combination of?
Yeah, and again, it's very individual. So some people don't get headache at all, but they have dizziness or they have that spacey feeling. So it depends on the person. Other people will have nausea.
Okay.
So it's really different for every person as to what.
Do you find also that, is it a difficult thing for people to want to come and get treated for? Is there still a stigma or an embarrassment almost about it? Like, God, there's something wrong with me. I should be able to sort this out for myself.
Yeah, I think that's getting better.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely.
These full contact sports, though, and again, it's not just, and you've got to remember this, it's not just the smash on tackle. It's every bit of contact where the head snaps around and things, isn't it? We're only just learning about this.
Yeah. So the neck and the strength of the neck plays a really big part in your concussion risk. So if your neck is really strong, that's like your brakes in the car. So the weaker the neck is, the slower you're going to be able to slow down the head movement.
Right.
So if you've got a nice strong neck and you can brace for impact, you see that hit coming, then you can control how fast that head's going to move and minimise the acceleration.
Well, most rugby players got a pretty good neck on them, and that's part of it, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep, most of them do. But it's also making sure they're the right kind of neck muscles, because a lot of them have big bulk out here. Mm-hmm. But internally, the ones that control the movement and stabilise the neck, they can be really weak.
How long is the longest patient that you've treated taken to come right? And the sub part of that question is, have there been people who just are not going to come fully right?
Yes. So when you have concussion on concussion, so that's where unfortunately they've got a knock and then they've returned too early. So they've gone back or they've decided to ride their bike and go mountain biking, fallen off the bike a week after their first concussion. Now you've got concussion on concussion, which can lead to permanent injury of the brain. So this is what we saw 20, 30 years ago. That's what was happening all the time because we just didn't know. So you were having players who had concussion and then they'd play again the next week, get another concussion, and that's what leads to permanent injury of the brain.
Do people know that they have been concussed, or is there concussions where you just don't know that you have been?
I would say most people are aware that they have symptoms because you have the impact and then you have symptoms after the impact. Sometimes those symptoms, you might get hit and then have a headache for a day or two afterwards. That's still concussion. I know that's not very exciting, like you're thinking you might have to have symptoms for 3-4 weeks until you return to play, but that's absolutely not the case. It doesn't matter how long. If you have an impact and you have one symptom, that is what concussion is.
Why is it so easy once you've been concussed to keep getting concussed? What actually is going on upstairs with that? Like, people who've been concussed 8 times can just about click your fingers and they'll drop. So what is that going on?
There's a combination of things there, but one of the big things I see is that they don't. So when you get concussion, you also get a neck injury. So whiplash happens around 4.5 G, and concussion is 96 G on average. So every concussion will result in a neck injury. Now, when you hurt your neck, the stabilising muscles in your neck deactivate. So if you don't reactivate them and turn them back on, then again, you're driving the car without brakes. So then you're more susceptible with a smaller knock to have greater acceleration of the head.
If you're a parent listening to this or watching this and you're thinking about, okay, my children, do I want them to play full contact sports like this? It's not just rugby league. It could be heading a football. It could be anything, right? How can you protect? What is, or is it this just part of playing these sports that you have to risk this?
I think we all need to remember that we all do dumb things in our life. We all fall off our bike or we bang our head when we're getting into the car. Concussion injuries don't have to be spectacular. They don't have to be massive tackles or, landing on your head, falling off a horse or something like that. They can happen in everyday life and we can't protect from those. But what we can do is we can manage them very well on the other side. And that's the crucial bit because we know that if you fully recover and allow the brain 3 to 4 weeks to fully recover after the concussion, then they don't accumulate. So then if you go 3-4 months and have another concussion, it won't add to the first one.
Okay.
It's like a fresh injury. And then you manage that one really well. And then 4 years down the track, you have another one. It's fine. But the problem is because most people are going to be symptom-free within 7 to 10 days. So when you're symptom-free, you feel amazing. So you feel like you should be able to play and do all these things. And that's why people go out and they do return to play too early and they will get another knock. And then they will do the same thing. It's just on repeat. So if we can educate people that it does take 3 to 4 weeks, and I know how frustrating that is.
Especially if you're an athlete, yeah.
Yeah, and my daughter got a concussion this year playing in a rep tournament team for the South Island tournament, and she had symptoms. She had about 3 symptoms after the injury. I was unfortunately not there, but she went to Christchurch ED and was told, you don't have concussion. They're making too big a deal about this. And you can play as long as you don't hit your head again.
Right.
So that is the frustration.
Yeah, they're just debunking those myths.
Yeah. Do the right thing and it's fine.
So your advice to everyone with the headache clinic, and there's like 9 different branches around the country, and you're going to open more as well. So do you have to get referred to you, or can you just come to you?
You can just come.
Okay. So if you've had a knock and you're feeling like I don't feel myself,
Yep.
just go and get it checked.
Get it checked because there's so much you can do. Even 5-10 years down the track, there's still stuff we can do.
And for guys like Beauden, Barrett and Sam Cane and Will Jordan, well, we all saw them playing on the end of year tour. So
Yeah.
they're symptom-free and they're happily playing.
Yeah, they're great.
Great. So it does have a happy ending.
It does. Yeah.
DSPN.